Hi everyone, this video is to show you how I grade patterns and to show how I take your measurements and turn it into a leotard or dance costume. Um, I wanted to emphasize in this video how important it is to send me accurate measurements. I'm going to do a video of how to take those measurements. In the meantime, I do have a video that I just snagged from somebody else on YouTube that is helpful, but they are missing a few measurements that I like to take. So sometimes I will ask for those depending on the design of your costume. But the image at the bottom are the measurements that were sent to me. And then the image at the top is where those measurements landed in my pattern. So you can see that the bust landed between sizes. So I will go down to splitting the difference to make sure that we get the perfect fit for your dancer. This is an image of just my phone next to the pattern. I'm always just referring back to those measurements as I trace out your dancer's pattern. And I literally cut out a pattern for each costume I make, unless it's really close. Sometimes for duets I can get lucky and I will trace out the bigger pattern first, and then I will trace out on that same pattern the smaller size within that same pattern. And then after I cut the fabric for the first pattern, I will then cut down the second pattern to size and then cut the fabric for the smaller pattern next. But doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes some dancers measurements are bigger in some areas than the other and smaller in other ways. So sometimes that doesn't work out, but I can get lucky from time to time with that. The video that I have coming up next is just showing how I refer back to my pattern and where those measurements landed. It's a little blurry. I apologize. It'll get better soon. I think it's just from the AI glasses just distorting the image from my phone. But right now I'm writing out where those measurements landed and the letter code. And that way I just have it right there ready as I'm tracing the pattern out onto the tracing paper. This is just a Lee leotard pattern that I like to use. I do have a few others. I have mostly switched over to Lee, mostly because of the quantity of sizes they have within one pattern. It just gives me the ability to make it exactly to your dancer's measurements. This pattern goes from a size 2T all the way up to an adult 2XL. So right now I'm just basically connecting the dots as to where those measurements landed, and always keeping in mind girth. As you saw in the dancer's measurement image, her girth was longer than her other measurements, so I take that into account and make the leotard longer so that way it has a good fit and doesn't give her a wedgie while she's dancing. So I'm tracing out where the hip went to the waist. A lot of you respond back when I'm sending you progress pictures how fast I am, but by the time I'm sending you images, I'm already well into the process. You just didn't see it. A lot of the work is going into mapping out the pattern, and then I have to customize the pattern from here. This is just a starting point for me to make sure that I have the measurements right and that I get a good fit. And then I have to hack the pattern to get the design, the custom design that we've collaborated on, to get it close to the image. So, and then cutting the fabric and cutting the lining and then pinning it all together, that all takes time. So by the time you're getting that first image, I'm already hours into the process. So I always laugh when I get the comment, wow, you're so fast. It's because I didn't send you all the boring pictures like I'm showing you now. So this is a little hack that I learned. I used to cut out all the pieces and then tape them together. Now I just kind of line it up. This pattern has a few different options for neckline. So this is the one I chose for this leotard. So I just lined it up and am continuing to draw the pattern. That video got cut a little short, but this next video is showing the back half of the leotard. So these are like, you probably can't see, but this is like a folded in half. So you're only seeing half of the costume. So I fold the fabric in half and then I cut, and then it opens up. That way both sides are symmetrical. But again, on the back side, I'm doing the exact same thing, tracing to those exact points where those measurements landed in my pattern, always referring back and making sure that I'm being very careful with this step, because this is where it really matters the most, because I want your dancer to feel comfortable in her costume or his costume, and that we get a good fit. But if I don't get good measurements, it doesn't matter how long I take on the step, it's not going to fit. So I'm really wanted to emphasize in this video how important it is that you send me accurate measurements. And if you ever have any questions, please let me know. Sometimes I will catch things like if waist is bigger than bust, which can happen, especially in the littler kids. They have those tummies before they grow. But usually if I see something too crazy of an outlier in my pattern, I will reach out to you and be like, hey, I think this measurement is wrong. Can you please double check it? But sometimes incorrect measurements don't always jump out. Sometimes they blend right in. So it's really important that you take your time with the measurements, because otherwise we're not going to get a good fit for your dancer. And it's much harder to fix after the fact, depending on which measurement or measurements you got wrong. I'm just cutting out the pattern now. Again, this is just a very basic leotard that I then take to the next design phase, and I cut it into a way that it represents what I drew into the costume. So, but this step just makes sure that I have all those points correct, that it is going to fit your dancer. So this is another hack I do. I don't really like how this pattern does the back of it, so I actually line the front piece and the back piece up and make sure that everything connects well, so that when I stitch it together, we have like a nice fit, so that the armhole lines up really nicely. And I do kind of cut the neckline down lower in the back. Again, most of the things I do are completely custom. I don't typically have a pattern that just works out perfectly for a leotard or a costume. So this final image is, and it looks a little stretched out. I'm not sure why it did that, but this is what the pattern looks like in the end, before I start cutting fabric. So I will be posting another video of how to assemble the leotard. I am mostly self-taught, and it's not hard to do. So if anybody wants to learn, I'm going to be sharing videos that will hopefully help you get started. But always feel free to reach out, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.